We're going to start with a sharp contrast. Okay, we're going to pick on Mark Zuckerberg. Once a stiff, stumbling, android-looking human through congressional hearings, dodging questions with rehearsed lines, nervously drinking water, to now showing up on the Joe Rogan podcast, speaking confidently about mixed martial arts, training with UFC fighters, and positioning himself as disciplined, dangerous warrior. But here's the real question. Why now? In this episode, Shekeese and I are going to dig into how powerful men like Zuckerberg and even Musk are using their platforms not just to push products or their ideas, but to redefine themselves publicly as hyper-masculine, combat-ready tech warriors. It's kind of silly if you think about it. We're going to explore what this transformation says about masculinity in today's culture, how media literacy, our ability to decode and understand these image shifts, why they're being made and who's making them is more important than ever in today's world. Because when billionaires craft new personas, they're not just rebranding themselves, they're reshaping our cultural narratives about power, toughness, and what it means to be a man in today's digital age. And it's more important now than ever. So let's dig in. But no, man, I've had this concept in my head. I started seeing this stuff surface probably about 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to use the term tech bro. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Yes.
But we're seeing these guys, and I'm not sure. And I wanted to talk to you. I couldn't think of anyone better for me personally to talk to about this because of your the things that you get into on the internet and the things that you teach, and also the topic of masculinity.
Yeah.
Because we touch on that a lot when we talk. And I'm seeing some things that I don't understand.
For context, can you kind of lay out some of the guys?
Yeah.
For sure. So we can have a little context about.
So let's pick on Mark Zuckerberg.
Okay.
Let's pick on the Zuck. Okay. Because I think everyone's going to know what I'm talking about.
Now, Zuck is definitely a tech bro or has evolved into a tech bro.
Yeah. So, for example, we had Mark Zuckerberg testifying in front of Congress like 2 years, like it was right after COVID, I think.
I remember that.
And they were grilling him about fact checking and I mean, you can look it up, all kinds of stuff. Yeah. And just the way he was presenting himself, like his haircut was weird. I mean, he got mocked for basically being an android.
He was just a regular, average, nerdy guy.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so recently he was on an episode of Joe Rogan, and he's had this metamorphosis. And so on this recent episode, he's got a different haircut.
Yep.
He's more muscular.
Yep.
He's wearing oversized t-shirt with some logos on it.
Yep.
He's got what I think was described as like $100,000 chain with a logo on it. And his watch was like $100,000.
I don't remember seeing the chain and watch, but I do remember the shirt and the muscles and the haircut.
And there's this tie-in with mixed martial arts and all this stuff. And it, so there's several layers. There's several layers. One of the layers is I wanted to get you on to talk about the way they're presenting themselves and the way they're using media to present themselves in a certain way. It's almost like personal propaganda in a way. So I wanted to explore that, but then also just the essence of like they're presenting like this guy, and we're picking on Mark Zuckerberg, but there's more than just him.
Absolutely.
He's presenting a new version of himself to the world.
Yeah.
It's clearly calculated.
Which, on the surface level, there's nothing wrong with growth.
No,
there's nothing wrong with self-improvement.
Absolutely.
Working out, being healthier, new hairstyle. Man, I got a wild hairstyle. I went from wearing fades all the time to this crazy shit that people are seeing now on the podcast. So there's nothing wrong with that. And I think we should be clear that I don't think that's what you're talking about. I think what you're talking about is there's a template that we're starting to see.
Yes.
Very similar to it's very similar to, do you remember the Coker Oakley khaki shorts template that was really big for college dudes
Oh, yeah.
for a while, right? You know, you had the, isn't it called a coker that holds your shades?
I think so.
Right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what it's called? I might be getting
Croaker.
it wrong. Croaker.
Yeah.
Right? And then, you know, the khaki shorts and the t-shirt, right? That was like a template. I think what really kicked that off was
We're from the South, so definitely.
I think it was Ferris Bueller or something. One of those
Yep.
movies kind of kicked off this look, and it was stuck around for like years.
Mhm.
And you knew your friend from college had got sucked in by the frat or something when they came back and they had on the uniform. You know, this is kind of like that template where it's this really it's almost like a, once I put on this uniform, I'm now being presented as this type of person.
Yeah.
And I want everyone to know that I'm this type of person. That, and you find the same thing. There was a hip hop phase of this too, right around the 2000s after 50 Cent dropped. There was like the big t-shirt, big jeans, big chain,
okay,
ball cap, you know what I mean, with a bandana. Like I remember there was this meme going around. It was like the hip hop starter kit. You know what I mean? If you had on this kind of shirt, these kind of jeans, the Nike Air Force
almost do the MMA
Timbs,
tech bro starter kit.
It was like a tech, and that's what it has become, like, which is I think why it's so noticeable, and I think is what you're talking about, like that same template is what you're seeing all these guys take on. And that, I think that's what you mean when you say that they're trying to signal something specifically similar to the hip hop starter kit or the Croaker,
I like that.
Khaki shorts, right? I'm trying to signify 100%. Something to you, and I want you to know that this is what I signify.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think's behind that? In your opinion, like why?
So I think it's a couple of things. On a very surface level, this is something that I talk to my son about a lot, and my friends too. Nowadays, they're amongst younger, the younger generation, I'd say under 30 at this point. Individuality when it comes to appearance, excuse me, individuality when it comes to appearance for the young under 30 generation isn't really a thing, right? They are more into, all right, everybody's got locks, so I'm going to get locks. Everybody's got on a Nike Tech hoodie, I'm going to get a Nike Tech hoodie. Everybody's got on tight jeans with the rips in them, I got to get some tight jeans and the rips in them. And then I got to get some cool slides or some really cool Yeezys or some kind of sneaker.
What age group was that? Did you say?
So under 30.
Under 30,
right?
Okay.
I find this in whether white, black, Indian, Asian, you find it in all, which is really interesting, right? It's across all genres of people. Like you can go to India, you can go to Europe, you can go to Africa, you can go to South Carolina, you can go to New York, and you'll find the same template. And it's like, wow, that's really interesting. Like, which was not the case when I was a kid. Now there were some similarities, you know, even like, you know, I remember acid wash jeans was a thing, right?
Yep.
Acid wash, but I don't remember there being an acid wash jeans template, right? Some people had jackets, some people did skirts, some people wore acid wash overalls, some people had jeans, some people had the cutoff shirt with the acid wash jeans, the Axl Rose style, right? But everybody had like their own thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't like one thing. So I think a part of it is this new generation. It's like, if I wear this template, like if I have on this outfit, what we're calling a uniform, then that says this particular thing. I
belong to this subset of people.
I think a part of it is that. Now I'm no sociologist.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not either.
But if I'm looking at it more from a media literacy lens, I'm definitely thinking about it from the standpoint of, I want to be seen as this particular type of person. One of the things that we understand about the world that we're living in now is we are absolutely living in the age of screens. Screen media runs the world. Because of that, perception runs the world, right? And one of the rules, I brought these rules with me today because I want to refer to these a lot. There's 6 core concepts of media literacy, and at OTR Media Group, we have a method called screen language, but we use those same 6 core concepts. And one of those concepts is that media and media messages can influence beliefs, attitudes, values, behaviors, and a democratic process. So one of the things to point out there
Read that again, please.
media and media messages can influence beliefs, attitudes, values, behaviors in a democratic process.
100%. We've just seen that.
We just seen that. So
Just experienced it last year.
this idea that, okay, I want you to believe that these are the values that I have as a person. So I'm going to put on this uniform because when you see me on your device and through your screen, I want you to know that this is the type of person that I am.
Well, let's be clear.
And you're familiar. Here's the other one. You're familiar with all the other bros that dress like this too.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that they're aware, right? They're aware that you're familiar with whether that's Mark Zuckerberg or whether that is the new Jeff Bezos, whether that is, you see this a lot with the younger tech bros. I don't know a lot of their names, but I know Mendel Fogelman
Yes.
on Facebook makes jokes about all of these guys, the 10X guys, the 10X that
I
shit
like
guys.
him. He's fun.
You know, but all of those guys, they all have that same template. It's usually going to be black clothing. It's usually going to be some type of muscular, right? It's going to be.
No, I get you. Shit.
It's usually going to be fashion forward,
right?
Right. The haircut is going to be some kind of masculine style, Andrew Tate-ish, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I think that these guys understand that media messages can influence belief, attitudes, behaviors, and values. So they want people to believe that they're this type of person, even if they don't believe it. Because I think living in the screen world, I think a part of what they are letting us know is that they understand the power of media and perception. And they want to use media and perception to their advantage to make you believe that they're a certain type of person, which is all. So it's all really just from what I'm from looking at it from a media literacy standpoint, it all looks like a intentional choice.
Yeah. Right? How could it not be? Well, you were reading that and I was just thinking I think the only time I've ever not interacted with, because I've never talked to the guy in any way whatsoever, but any way I've ever taken in visual images, and again, we're picking on Zuckerberg, is through my damn screen.
Yeah.
I was sitting here thinking, have I seen him on my actual television before? I don't think so. Right. It's always been on my phone or on my computer that I've seen this person.
Archetype. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of fucked up.
Well, on one hand, yeah. On the other hand,
but that's how he communicates to the world.
Yes. Yeah. And it's a trend.
Yeah.
It's absolutely a trend, and it's signaling that to other men and women, humans actually in general, that I'm this type of person and I want you to believe I'm this type of person. So I'm going to take every opportunity to show up as this kind of a person, as opposed to just being a regular human being and wearing regular clothes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like, that's what you just bought and put on.
Yeah. Right.
No, there's no way.
There's no way.
There's no way.
It's super intentional. The other thing, the first rule of media literacy is that all media messages are constructed.
Yeah.
Right. So not just how the camera is framing, but what the person has on, the type of hair, whether or not they have on makeup. I mean, I chose this mug, right? This isn't by accident.
Right.
All media messages are constructed.
Yeah.
And so once you understand, like if a guy like Mark Zuckerberg and a lot of these tech bros understand.
Well, he should. Like, he owns and runs Facebook.
Right.
Come on.
And most of these guys have digital platforms.
Of course.
Some type of digital platform.
Musk owns X,
or a podcast platform,
yep,
or some kind of platform you can 100%. Pay me to come and do screen lessons to you through a screen about financial buying houses or some kind of, mortgage flipping or some shit. And once you understand that media messages are constructed, then you understand that, if I understand that all media messages are constructed and I understand that people are using that to their advantage, now, I can look at that and understand what's being shown to me, or B, I could take advantage of that and use that to my advantage and make sure I'm constructing an image that has a particular type of archetype so that you'll believe I'm a particular type of person.
Right. Yeah, it's not an accident. So I've got these three. You got some terms. I got some terms.
Yeah, give it to me.
Just to be clear here, and there's 3 types of masculinity that
Okay.
Chat GPT told me about.
Okay, chat. What you got for us?
But I like the descriptions. So we've got traditional masculinity, right? Linked to traits like stoicism, dominance, self-reliance. Think about our dads and our grandpas.
Oh, 100%.
Healthy masculinity, balancing strength with emotional intelligence, self-awareness, respect, and empathy for others. I like to think that's kind of where we spend most of our time.
100%.
And then we have toxic masculinity, which I've waffled whether that's a real thing or not, but I kind of think it is after I've read this description, and it's a term used to describe when societal expectations of masculinity encourage harmful behavior, such as suppressing your emotions, avoiding a vulnerability, or using aggression as a form of dominance.
Yes.
And that's the one I kind of wanted to touch on a little bit to get your opinion on, because you're a father,
Yes.
you know,
To a son.
To a son, and I am as well. And I think that as a healthy masculine human who's raising hopefully healthy masculine younger humans, I think there's things that we want to teach them,
Yeah, I think that you said something really powerful and really simple, as you said, masculine human.
Yeah.
The emphasis on the word human. I think that whether you're talking about toxic masculinity or toxic femininity, because there's versions of both, what the toxicity brings is inhumanness.
Yeah.
Right. It takes the human part out. It all becomes
and you set it up.
characterization.
You set it up perfectly with everything you said before.
Yeah. It all becomes characterization. And the thing about characterization, I think media lends itself to it. Right. So it's funny. I was just thinking about this just now. Like I'm downloading this in real time. Right.
Oh, cool.
Like
good to see you in action.
Our version, when we're thinking about, well, what works when it comes to masculinity in media? If you're talking about a masculine male, what works?
And it's changed over time.
Right. However, if we're thinking about the last 50 years, your version of masculine male is going to be Rambo or Terminator.
I was just thinking that too.
Right.
Because I don't know what it was. I was watching something on YouTube about the movies in the 80s, and they were working on
The Beekeeper, Jason Statham, Liam Neeson.
It was the Expendables, which is
right,
awesome in its own.
All of those guys are really different versions of the same archetype of the masculine male. I remember one of my favorite Mel Gibson movies, even though Mel Gibson is sometimes I wish I didn't know people's personal life, but
he's definitely one that.
Oh man. But there was this movie he was in. I can't think of the name of it now. He just got out of prison. Oh man, it's like a gangster movie. But this is early 90s. And the opening scene is one of my favorite scenes. He just got out of prison. They let him go. All he has is the clothes that he went into jail with. It's like a suit with a t-shirt. And he's walking down the street with flipping a coin. He goes into a place, steals a wallet from a guy, goes to uses his card, buys like some food, then goes to another place and steals something else, and ends up getting some cash. Like it's like literally as he's walking,
he's building himself.
Right? It's just. But the whole movie, which I love, is really this really archetype guy who doesn't take no shit, who's really intelligent, who's quiet but strong. The ladies love him. The guys want to be him, right? He can use any weapon. You can't beat him with a fist, right? You know what I mean? He's going to kick your ass.
Take incredible level of punishment.
You know what I mean? Leonidas, you can go down the line, Optimus Prime. Although I think over years, I'm going to pull back on Optimus Prime because I think over the years we've seen Optimus Prime's character be more of the middle. What was the one in the middle you mentioned?
What do we call it? There was traditional. Come back. Healthy
masculinity. We've seen that the new Optimus Prime is more healthy masculinity
for sure.
But Megatron is more toxic masculinity. You know what I mean? Don't take no shit. Starscream. And so if that is the archetype, right? If I'm in the age of screens now, and I want to be someone that is tough, seen as taking no shit. seen as I could kick anybody's ass. I could walk in any room and intimidate people or make people feel like I'm the strong man. I get all the ladies, I get all the cars, I get all the bitches. Then I'm going to look at those and say, and so I can't be Rambo.
It's
right?
already Rambo.
There's already Rambo.
Yeah.
But how can I be a version of Rambo? Because I've been told that that's the kind of masculinity that people want. And so I think that influence, that media influence of how we think about
100%,
masculinity has trickled down to how those guys now present themselves on the screen as men. Right? Don't you think there's something to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about these tech leaders.
Media's such a strong influence.
Yeah, but we're talking about the people that run them.
Oh, man.
Are now leveraging them. So these tech leaders used to be seen as like nerds, right? So that's the traditional, nerd.
Look at old pictures of Elon Musk.
Yeah, like nerds will rule the world, or the quiet will rule the world, whatever that saying is. Now they want to be warriors.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, what do you think that comes from? Like, what is that? Just a response to? I mean, is that a direct response to like being opposite of, use a Trump term, like DEI? Because they blame everything on DEI, but like, is it just like a brand position?
I think it's definitely a brand position. I think it's definitely a brand position. And I do think that's as deep as it goes, because media and the screen and perception plays such a large role, in our everyday lives. It plays such a large role in our everyday lives. You got to think about it. Every day you're attached to a screen.
Yeah.
Every minute you're attached to a screen. And so when we have so much of how we perceive reality now being shaped by what we get through a screen, is it any wonder that men and women, mind you, I think, so when you talk about toxic masculinity, you're talking about the tech bro. I would say it's the same for like the female exercise influencer, right?
Yeah,
it's all tight booty shorts. I want you to see the crack of my ass when I do this squat. You know what I mean? It's like the archetype. And it's the same thing. It's like, I know you like I've been influenced by the Pamela Anderson, the video vixen. Like, I know that's
it has
the
changed
thing
you.
into.
Yeah.
And so that is what I'm going to present as the hook for the whether it's the masculine male or the feminine woman that is the one that people desire, but also doesn't take no shit. And you know what I mean? Like it's almost like this it's almost like this adaptation to the media world. You know what I mean? It's almost like we're all trapped in like a movie or a video. Yeah, and we're all emulating the things that we've seen that work.
It's interesting you brought up Pamela Anderson.
That's really ill.
It is. I don't know
that happened in real time, by the way.
It's funny you brought up Pamela Anderson. I don't know if you've seen her recent I don't want to call it transformation, but she is leading. I don't want to say leading Hollywood because I don't think they're going to pay attention to her, but she's leading with her image where she's not wearing makeup in public. And she's presenting herself as like a standard, 50-year-old female, like that exists in the real world. Like that's how she's presenting herself. Look her up once you walk out of here, look her up. And it's you're like, wow, you look like a normal person. And then I don't even see what you look like now, how you even came from what that was on the screens that I used to see. Like you don't even, it's like, it looks like a different person.
That's interesting.
It's amazing. So that's sort of like I'm not an expert on femininity. Like
no, I'm not either.
I'm not going to sit here and talk like I know about it.
But I'm certainly an expert when it comes to media imagery and the use of it and the use.
Well, she has said, I am going to present this image because I think the opposite image is disgusting and it's ruining people.
It really, really is. I mean, it has a major influence because the truth is money, sex, violence gets attention. Whether you're talking about a screen or whether you're talking about a train wreck or a car wreck, people want to see, and if somebody has a crack of their ass on the screen, or if somebody is saying, I walk in a room, I can kick anybody's ass. That's gonna make somebody go, yo, did you see this shit?
I know.
So it's the same energy. And because perception plays such a large role in our lives now, because of screens being ubiquitous with living and existing, it's a tool that I think these guys are using to their advantage. Because ultimately,
I think so.
Here's the other one. Ultimately, it's gonna make me more money.
Well, yeah, that's the only reason these guys are gonna do any of that stuff.
You know?
Yeah.
Like
that's,
if you,
what
you know,
that's why they exist.
You know, I think it's gonna help my bottom line. And I wonder how much of that is influencing it. Like when I think about the Pamela Anderson thing, a lot of that I'm sure came from other people saying, if you look like you look on Baywatch every day, this is gonna help your bottom line. I wonder how much of that is happening with Zuck.
I do
somebody
too. That
behind the scenes is saying,
it's like you're following along here.
Hey, you know, if you look like this could help your bottom line.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Or
damn, that takes us into politics. Oof.
Or speaking of politics, maybe he felt bullied by Congress. And now this is his way of trying to position himself to where you ain't gonna bully me because I know how to beat people up in the octagon.
Yo.
Really funny sidebar about that though. I don't know if you saw.
I got it now. I want to turn it on you now, but go ahead.
I'll edit this. I'm going to edit some video and stuff. We're going to try that. But there's a really funny scene of him. He's like Dana White's friend now, the guy who runs UFC. And there's a scene of him on I forget what fighter he was with. Anyway, Zuck is on the at the you know, when the UFC fighters come in, they walk up to the octagon and they take all their stuff off, right? Mm-hmm. So they'll take their shirt off and they'll make sure their, you know, fingernails and check for whatever. And he's standing there and like he's supposed to be helping, but he's like this, and they're like just handing stuff right past him, you know. And then they all high five, and he turns to high five, and the guy just turns around and walks away, and he's just like, I don't know what to do.
I haven't seen
this. It was just so performative.
Yeah,
the fact that he was there and that the real warriors were like, bro, you don't belong here.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you.
It was like,
how is this being absorbed by the actual warrior community? You know, I know that you've been in the martial arts for several years. I know you have an extensive community in the Southeast. I know for sure. How is the community responding to this energy that is obviously so performative? What's the response?
If you ask them on a show like this, they'll say, yeah, good for him. You know, he's learning. But if we talk about it behind the scenes, it's a joke. Because we watch his video of him training and we're like,
this is exactly why I want to ask you that.
You know,
Dana White, but more specifically Joe Rogan, right? We all know Joe Rogan is actually a warrior. Like Joe Rogan has a actual mixed martial arts background. He's actually very good. He's respected in the martial arts warrior world.
Yeah.
When you have a guy like that, that's given a pass to these performative guys, at least that's what it looks like, because to me, it looks like they're using his credibility for their benefit. How is that perceived in the community?
It's starting to be noticed. Man, you're like, did you sure you didn't read this?
No, I didn't.
I literally have a chapter called The Joe Rogan Effect. How Rogan, MMA, and similar spaces have become cultural hubs for discussing masculinity, toughness, and dominance. You're
psychic.
Yeah. No, it's becoming noticed. Like, and I think that, man, I was watching a dude break this down on YouTube the other day, how Rogan himself is starting to see that these guys are using him.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you have an example?
I don't have a specific example. But like, and he doesn't like in the middle of the show, he's not like, oh, you're fucking using me. And he flips the table over. He just keeps going on. But you could kind of tell the way I've listened to Rogan for a long time because he's sort of the blueprint for having a top podcast in the country for 10 years or whatever. But like, take that for example. They know that if I'm on his show, here's Rogan, who is lead commentator for the UFC.
Yep.
You can just listen to him. Extremely knowledgeable about the fight game.
100%.
He's got a Taekwondo black belt.
Yep.
He's got 2 Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts, and 2 different, it's weird to say styles, but it's like 2 different realms of Jiu-Jitsu. Knows his shit. There's countless videos of him just beating the shit out of pads. They know this.
Yep.
So when Zuckerberg comes on the show and they show a little screen of Zuckerberg training for 20 seconds, and then he gets to talk about UFC with Joe Rogan, right? He's getting some of that juice. He's getting some of that juice.
Yeah. Whether it's Trump, whether it's JD Vance, whether it's Kanye, whether it's the tech bros, because all of the tech bros go to Joe Rogan. And it's like, I wonder if someone like Joe Rogan, who knows he knows his shit, who knows he is someone that has actually been through, is aware, of the use of how he's being used. Because I look at how does he not know? Because I look at like the opposite of that for me is Drink Champs, which is also a very masculine podcast. It's with Nori and DJ FN. It's really huge in the hip hop community because it's a huge podcast, probably top 5. And Drink Champs is run by Noriega, rapper, hit maker. But Nori isn't a journalist / professional warrior type person. He's just a rapper that's funny and likes to talk shit. And so when he's been in situations where his podcast is being used, he's unaware because he doesn't have the mentality of someone like a Joe Rogan. Like with martial arts training, I think one of the things that people miss, and I want to get into this. I don't know if you want to talk about this, but I want to get into this on this topic because I think one of the things that's missing with martial, particularly when it comes to toxic masculinity, is how so much of the training is mental. I think that people look at martial arts training, particularly when it comes to even UFC style, and they see strength kicking ass, right? But that's, I'd say maybe 25% of the training. I'd say 75% of that training is how you're conducting yourself, how you're thinking about yourself, how you're engaging with the world, how you're engaging with humans, how you're engaging with your self-awareness, respect, care, honor, loyalty. All of these things are really big in the world. And that is not a world that Nori comes from, right? So when people are using him, it's like he's not a journalist, A. B, he hadn't had the same training that a Joe Rogan has. So that's why I look at a Rogan and I go, well, wait a minute, he has to be aware because self-awareness is key, particularly if you're a pro fighter. It's one thing if you're like an amateur, you go train on the weekends. If you're a pro, self-awareness is because you got to take care of your body. You got to take care of what you're eating and intaking, 100%. How you're sleeping and resting, how you're engaging with people. So you're not just knocking people out when they say something to you at the bar, right? Like, so where is the balance there for someone, even if it was you? Like, wouldn't there be some sort of like, okay, dude, you're not practicing, like you're not actually serious about something I've devoted my life to. Wouldn't there be some kind of line somewhere?
Yes, there is. Yeah.
So why isn't there, Gene? Answer it for all of us.
I don't know the answer for all of us. But you're talking about the difference between being a true martial artist and pretending to be one.
Yeah.
I mean, that's sort of the rub on mixed martial arts and UFC, right? I come from a traditional martial arts background. So does Rogan. And when you study traditional martial arts, there is that level of the samurai had it, right? They got the Bushido code, Budo, like living this life where, I honor my trainers, I honor my parents, I'm respectful, I work hard, I I've overcome the mental obstacles that, someone who, dude, you've been in business a long time. You've overcome many, we were talking about some before we started the show, mental obstacles and things that you overcome. Like those are real things. And if you walk that path, you do train those real things. And that's sort of the rub with like mixed martial arts, because it's a sport. You know what I mean? Like, so we're talking about the difference between like sport and life.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like samurai had to live by a certain, we romanticize them. They weren't all like perfect, but some of them were giant assholes. But
of
like,
course. Power.
You have to though, because it's a martial life of life and death, and this is real versus a sport.
Yeah. Well, can you break down for me? I don't know if you can or not, but what martial means when it comes to martial arts?
So we talk about martial arts, we're talking about the art of fighting, the art of war. You know what I mean? Like, so the martial aspect is fighting. It is defending yourself. It is defending others. It is this physical practice of doing that thing, right? But the art also brings all the other things, the honor, the respect, like take an art like jujitsu. If we train jujitsu, there are moments where I could probably break your arm or literally kill you.
Yeah.
Like if I have you in a chokehold, or if I have your arm locked, it'd be real easy to just pop that arm or just hold you a little bit too long and you go to bed. But if we're training, I trust you that you're not going to do that. You trust me that I'm not going to do that. We are sacrificing our bodies together to train this art and to better ourselves and to get further down the road. If we remove that trust, then what do we got?
I think you just answered the question of what this podcast is all about.
Okay.
Because that trust, that part of the martial arts world is the human part.
Yep.
Which is what these tech bros are taking advantage of.
They are 100% taking advantage of it, which is why I'm insulted by it.
Is because I want the strength. I want the fight. I want you to know I have the strength and the fight and I'm a warrior, right? Because all of that sounds great. However, I know if I can convince you, if I can use this media platform to influence how you believe I am, I don't have to get into the human part of it, because then that's going to expose something that I don't want you to believe.
Yeah, because I'm really a trash human.
It's really all about perspective. Like to me, when you were breaking that down, I was like, oh, well, hell yeah, I would want that if I was Mark Zuckerberg. Right. That's no different to me than I remember when I was in high school. I remember, this is a personal story. I remember when I grew up in a very rough neighborhood in Ridgewood, North Columbia. And then when my mom moved us in 1990 over to Broad River Road, it was the first time I saw like sidewalks, neighborhood sidewalks. First time I was around white people like in abundance. And I was a very soft kid as a kid, very soft. Did not like to fight, didn't like the sight of blood. But because I grew up in a rough neighborhood, I was forced to, like literally, like my cousins took me into the woods and beat me until I fought back. Like that's a real story. That really happened. If my cousin Lindsay was here, he'd tell you, he'd be like, yeah, we did. Cause he was a little crybaby. All right. They didn't like that. And so when we moved, I was like, oh, I can kind of become like this tough version.
I can be,
I can be, because over here, I don't see any of those killers that I grew up with. Like I grew up around killers for real. When I went over to St. Andrews Middle School in Virginia Columbia High, I was like, oh, I don't see that same energy. It's sidewalks over here and people got 2-parent homes over here and they got 2-car garages. Like this is a different world. Like, okay, I can be a tough guy over here. And I remember, I think it was like 10th or 11th grade at Columbia High when the schools got rezoned. And I remember I was walking down the hallway and my cousin Derek was coming out. I was like, when did Derek get over to Columbia High? And I immediately was like, well, that act is gone.
He knows.
Because if these guys figure out that I'm trying to pose as a tough guy, they're going to beat my ass. you know, and you know, I would fight and stuff like that in school, and
Yeah.
I tried to pose like I would dress really tough, but
Yeah.
I had to like tone it down like once these came around. But the reason why I brought up that story is because there was a desire that I had to be this fighting tough archetype, because that energy seemed to get respect.
Yeah.
It seemed to get liked. It seemed to
Yeah.
get girls.
Yeah.
Right. It seemed to add some machismo to something I knew I did not have. And that energy is what I see from someone like a Zuckerberg.
Mm-hmm.
When you want and desire to be seen away, and here's the thing, at that age I wasn't willing. I didn't learn about the what I call the warrior way until much later in high school.
Right.
I ran across a last story, because I know I'm dragging this statement on, but when I was I think it was my senior year or junior year in high school, was when I was around, I was in Upper Bound, and we were having this, all the boys were on one floor at the University of South Carolina in a dorm for the summer, and we were having like this pretend brawl. I think I might have told you a story before. And so we were kind of jumping on each other, you know, playing. It wasn't for real. But I was going around, like if it was 2 or 3 people on the ground, I would run over there and start kicking whoever's on the bottom. Then I would run over to the next pile, kick whoever's on the bottom. Then like the 3rd or 4th pile, our counselor, one of our counselors, a guy named Ty, jacked me up and threw me against the wall. He was like, "What the hell are you doing?" I was like, "Well, I'm just having fun." He was like, "You don't run around and kick the man on the ball." He was like, "That's coward. Like if you're gonna get in there and fight, get in there and tumble." Because they were letting us do it.
Yeah.
But he was like, "That what you're doing there, that's
Bullshit.
some bullshit."
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, "Oh, I gotta. It's not about being what I thought masculine was, right? What I thought being tough was."
Yeah.
It's about confrontation and being willing. And that's when I kind of started my journey. After that, I started boxing, those other things, so I could get used to confrontation.
Nice.
And that's the human part that's missing. That's what I was trying to get to.
That's right.
The perception is the fighting warrior Rambo.
That's right.
The human part is, are you willing to deal with loss? Are you willing to deal with confrontation?
You're willing to fail.
Are you willing to fail? Are you willing to deal with restraint? Right. And that, I think, is a large part of this equation we're talking about, with this attractiveness
100%.
and this use of people when it comes to this world.
It is. You know, there's a video of you've probably seen it, of Zuckerberg training mixed martial arts. He's got clearly built a gym or whatever wherever he's at, and
he's got the money.
I think they built one at Facebook to do jiu-jitsu, whatever, and he's training, you know, mixed martial arts, and they show him working with his trainer. He's taking the guy down and all this stuff. I would have been much more impressed having seen him being put down on the ground. Not like, I'm not talking about like, I want to see videos of people beating Zuck up. I don't care about that, but like seeing him being submitted, seeing him taken down and enroll in an actual, you know, sparring session, like where he gives and takes and loses and wins. Like I would have been more impressed with that instead of what it is. It's like a fast edit of him winning.
Most media literacy rule number 5 is most media messages are organized to gain profit and or power.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it again. Rule number 5 is most media messages are organized to gain profit and or power. What we mean by power as media literacy educators there is not necessarily power as in strength. It means power as in influence, right? I want to influence you to think a thing, right?
Makes sense, man.
So when you look at something like Mark Zuckerberg training and you're watching him training, the first thing you got to think is, why are we seeing him training?
Right. Why?
Why are we only seeing him take? I haven't seen the video, but from what you're telling me, why are we only seeing him take people down? And then even more importantly, why is there a camera there in the first place?
Yeah. It's in some gym where he's training.
Why?
What are they doing? Yeah. Why are they recording it?
Why? I work out all the time. Well, I don't work out all the time, but when I do work out,
do you have a camera crew?
I never even cut my camera on. I don't even understand that, to be quite honest. I don't understand the world of cutting the camera on when I'm working out.
I don't either. That's weird, but
I don't get it.
You can even tell that the lens they're using is not a phone. You can tell it's like a 35 millimeter lens.
See,
it's super
constructed.
Lit. Yeah, it's very constructed. You know, It's like,
And
that's
it's
a
the
bit.
why. And it's the part that is, again,
I think he's even mic'd up
oh
for
man,
like the end part.
they
It's
probably
like,
got
you
a
got
boom mic.
microphones? Yeah. Like, what the hell?
It's one of the things that media literacy advocates like myself, why we're pushing people to be more media literate. There's something that is a little bit too early to announce, but there's a project that we're working on with a big nonprofit in town to offer free media literacy programming to any citizen. That it's in the
Cool.
development stages right now. That I think is going to be really awesome when it's announced, because being aware that people are using these techniques to influence you, and having the ability to understand how those techniques are being used in real time is what people need.
Yeah,
as opposed to, one of the things that I really beef with the media literacy industry about is this idea of fact checking and going to check. Like, look, the screen social system is not designed for you to stop. The system is designed for you to scroll.
Right.
So if you're asking somebody to look at the image and then fact check the image and then go scroll to the next Instagram button, nobody's going to fucking do that. That's not even realistic, right? You got to give people the tools, just like if you learn language. Like, I'm talking to you in English, you understand English. You don't have to go fact check what I'm saying.
Right.
You understand English.
Right.
It'd be different if I was speaking French right now.
Yeah,
you don't really know French, so you need a reference book.
I've translated it.
That makes sense. And that's what we need to do, is train people with those skills, because this idea of taking advantage of you with you not understanding that all media messages are constructed, that I can influence how you think or believe, that I am using my platform to gain influence over you by how I set up what I'm showing you. It's putting you at a disadvantage. And I think it's influencing, I think I was having this conversation with a friend of mine out in New York, and she was telling me about a friend of hers. No. Actually, this is my buddy Seth out in San Francisco. And he was saying there's an Andrew Tate effect happening in schools in San Francisco. And I was like, I didn't even know this was. He was like, yo, you ain't heard about this? I was like, no. He was like, yo, we got these kids that are like talk back to teachers, and they're like super, they'll get in fights with, volunteer teachers and all this kind of stuff. And it's all, he was like, I didn't think it was a real thing until I would hear them in there like yelling or, posturing, say the same things that I've heard the Andrew Tate folks say. And I was like, oh shit, I didn't even know, like I hadn't even seen this phenomenon yet. And that influence, going back to the Joe Rogan thing, like, you got to be aware there's millions of people listening to you. How you not?
He knows.
Understanding
he works
that
in media.
Influence.
He works in Hollywood. He works. I mean,
shit. He never watched Spider-Man. With great power, comes great responsibility.
I know.
This is superhero shit.
That's sort of my growing beef with Rogan. Is that it's like, come on, man. And we don't ever know the full story, but I can infer a lot. Can definitely.
Maybe you should go watch the first Spider-Man again.
Maybe we should.
Tobey Maguire Spider-Man again.
The Tobey Maguire Spider-Man?
Yes.
Yes.
With the Ben scene, he put his hand on his shoulder with great power.
Yeah.
That's great responsibility.
100%.
Yeah.
It really is. So this key takeaways here about the earned versus performing masculinity, right?
Oh,
so some guys, I say guys, we're talking about masculinity, but whatever. Too. Some guys train in silence, right? They work, they go to the gym, they work. They don't film themselves. They grind, they learn, they fail, they overcome. And then that's where we get the respect from, which is what we're talking about, like Zuck and Musk and them using that from Rogan. Then we have the other cast that's like performing it. Yeah. Which loses our respect.
It's completely it's Rambo.
Yeah.
Right? It's
Rambo's
it's
not real.
Spectacle.
Rambo's not real.
Right? It's, I know that you've seen the archetype in this movie, and if I pretend to be that archetype, you'll love it. It makes me think of two things specifically. It makes me think of Elon Musk on stage with the chainsaw. Right? I go, oh,
or standing in the White House
right?
wearing a t-shirt,
like,
and a hat.
Like what?
Yeah.
It's like, you gotta know that he's using the chainsaw.
How does he not know?
Like, you got to know
How do
he's
we not-
using this.
How do we not see that? Yeah.
This
Come
is
on.
this is so blatantly intentional. I mean, he runs tech companies. This motherfucker's
knows.
not using the chainsaw.
He knows.
He's I mean, come on.
He
Like
knows.
and people, I was listening to this guy online talk about, are people that gullible? Like, clearly. Because if you can believe that a guy
Yeah.
that's worth that much money is walking around with a chainsaw in his backyard and just happens to have it as he goes on stage, it's all spectacle. And then the other one was, I'll never forget, right before the election, Trump's last TV commercial ended with a frozen shot of him with his fist pump in the air with the blood on him.
Yeah.
That was
for
the last
sure.
shot on the ad, and it had Trump 2024.
For sure.
I was like, oh shit. Like,
that is
like, come on. Like, this is like movie trailer type shit now.
Yeah,
Like,
it really
if you're
is.
not looking at that and saying, all right, he's using me, then
Mhm.
it's almost like, it's gotten, the perception reality thing has gotten so bad that I desire to have the perception over the truth, which is the thing I wanted to ask you about. Yo, how is it that when you're talking about the tech bro, the warrior, the fighter,
Yeah.
how is it that someone could not just use and misuse, but make a mockery of, right? How could someone make a mockery of the thing that you have devoted your life, your time, energy to? They're making a mockery of the thing that you've devoted your life and time and energy to, and yet support it, knowing that it's the farthest thing from the truth. Like, where,
Yeah.
There's one thing that says, I like, there's this energy around, we want to see the house blow up. Like, let's just watch the fire. We just want to watch the fire burn, right? There's that energy. But where is the response to that from the people on the other side that know that it's a tactic? Where is that response at?
I'm hoping this is one of them. No, I'm serious. I mean, I don't have the audience that somebody like Rogan does, but
Yeah.
I really wish he would. I mean, I really wish he would break it down. I think he's too busy making, writing checks from it, or cashing checks. Honestly, I think we really are in an era where strength, or the projection of strength, equals credibility.
Yeah.
I think we are, and you see it with Trump. You see it with Trump trying to promote the image of the tough guy. Or even, I'm gonna pick on him, even though Biden did the same thing.
Yes.
There was a lot of that. Like, in the first time when they ran, there was a lot of like, well, I could punch you in the face, Jack.
Yeah.
And he even Biden talked like that.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. However, I think,
but Obama never did.
Obama never did. However, let me. I think there's a very important distinction, because I get rubbed really wrong, if I'm being completely transparent, when people will say, "Well, Biden did something that Trump did."
Oh, yeah.
And here's why. It's not apples to apples.
It is not.
And I
agree.
think that on a lot of podcasts I listen to, people say, well, Biden did this and Trump did this. Well, this is like the opposite of, Trump's like the anti-Obama. No. And here's why those two things are different. One of these people is manufactured.
100%.
The other one is just is super, like, it's like I'm a embellishment of myself. Like, Biden is embellishing this real assholey Schenectady. Everybody knows that's actually him. He's just embellishing when he says he'll punch you in the face, but it's coming from a place that's authentic.
Right.
For Donald Trump, is a costume.
I agree.
It's a complete huge difference between someone that's embellishing a part of who they are and someone that's performing. Right. And I think it's very dangerous when we make people think, which people do this all the time on podcasts or news shows. They make people think that it's two sides of the same coin when it is not. It is very much not.
Right.
And that not making that difference clear is why I believe so many people get caught up. Because the minute someone says, well, he's doing the same thing, the opposition goes, well, see, it's the same thing over there.
Right.
Right. So now I have license to believe all this crazy shit, as opposed to saying, no. That crazy shit that you believe is somebody that's putting on a costume. It's almost like the Wizard of Oz.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, he's coming down out of the robot. He's putting on his sneakers and t-shirt and going home to take care of his cows and dogs. You thinking he's like the wizard.
Right. No,
it's not.
For sure.
That's a humongous difference.
100%. It's the same with Zuck, same with Musk.
Same with Zuck, same with
It's
Musk.
performative. It's not real.
It is not real.
I think you have to look at that, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, because like where the hell is Zuckerberg training where he's actually going through the hard knocks of like what everyone else who's trained for 20 years? Where's he getting that at?
That's my problem with
who's going to really beat his ass in a training session?
That's my problem with Logan Paul.
100%.
If you want to be a boxer, bro.
Yeah.
Just go be a boxer.
Go fight your way up.
Go fight your way up like every other boxer in human history. You want to come at it through this like sideways.
It ain't real. Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to actually try to be an amateur and then go get a belt and then become a pro like every other 15-year-old, 16-year-old, 17-year-old, 25-year-old boxer. I'm going to go and fight Nate Robinson, Mike Tyson.
Guys, like retired people.
It's all spectacle.
Yeah.
God damn. Thank you, Jordan Peele. It's all spectacle.
It is.
That was the whole thing to get out. It was all spectacle. It's all
entertainment.
And unfortunately, that entertainment's having real world consequences.
Yeah. We're in it, man. We're in it deep.
And I got to be honest with you. Now that we're at this part of the episode, like I don't really see a way out. You know, I think that people like myself, and I wish we had, I think what's missing from this conversation is a sociologist. Like I really love sociologists or somebody that was an expert on masculinity to come in, because I think that putting those facts in about, you know, where we are with masculinity right now and human beings.
That would be a good episode. Maybe we can find somebody.
That would be really awesome.
If I do, I'll invite you in. We'll do
I love to, because that's something I can't really speak knowledgeably about. But and at the same time, like this screen-based world that we've all been forced into, by the way. We none of us asked.
I didn't.
You know, nobody said, you know, let's let everything be run by screens, which is the dumbest. I don't know how there isn't federal regulation around this. Like,
it sucks. I know you're a big proponent for.
I'm a huge proponent of federal regulation in this stuff, because just the other day, I'm with my mom and my aunt, and there was some unclaimed property that my grandmother had, and I was like, well, they're saying you can go online, and both of them were like, we're not going online. Like, I'm not, where's the address? And I was like, well, Mom, I don't think you can go. Well, we're going down there. You know what I mean? Give me the address. Yeah. And it's like everyone is forcing you into the screen-based world without understanding that it is an incredibly inhuman existence. It is not a existence that is conducive or supportive or beneficial to the human existence.
No.
It is putting us in a place that, while it might be technologically advanced, while it may save us time and be efficient, it is diminishing the human, not only experience,
it is,
but also our ability to function. The functionality of a human being is interaction. Like, it's your basic function. Like, the function of a car is to get you from point A to point B, or the function of a business to turn a profit. The function of a human being is to interact with other humans. That's your basic function. And it's taking that basic function of humanity away. And until someone comes in, which I think should be some type of regulatory body, and starts putting protocols around the way that we can take advantage of people and perceptions and beliefs and values at will, whenever we want, you know, I think it's going to continue to be a very dangerous place. With,
agreed,
you know, now we're talking about, we're entering the age where we're in submersive computer spaces. So it's not
Oh
just
yeah.
us
Oh, yeah.
interacting.
Well,
It's
virtual reality and stuff.
virtual reality. We're going to be immersed.
Which is a thing
You
to
know,
keep
and
in
so-
mind. As I know you got to go, you have a hard stop, but
Yeah, about 10.
it's a thing to keep in mind as we are picking on Zuckerberg and his new image of a MMA fighter.
Oh,
and
I
a
see where you go.
masculine man, is to realize that he is coming off one of the biggest failures of his company, which he rebranded the entire company to be called Meta
Yes.
in his little metaverse.
Yep.
That went nowhere.
Yep.
Reportedly have lost hundreds of millions of dollars in development. That he is recovering from that.
Mm-hmm.
This image wasn't there before that.
That's such a Gene. Oh man, you just opened it up again.
Yeah. So I think
that would actually be a better place for him to imagine how much better we all would be if Zuck came out and said that was the reason why.
Right? If he
imagine
talked about
the difference in how
work,
that would actually not only be healthy masculinity, but that'd be healthy humanity.
I would
for
respect
people to
him
hear.
so much more.
Oh man, Gene.
And then to
I
say,
didn't even think about that.
We should be his branding people, but that takes away from his ego. It takes away from his position as a billionaire leader,
perception,
who can't be wrong about anything.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't like it.
Oh, Gene,
I don't like it.
I didn't even think about that until just now. That's a bar.
And we talked with, no, we're not going into the details, but you were telling me that you were recently talking to someone that opened your eyes and said you're holding on to something.
Yeah,
you're holding on to this belief that you can't fail.
Yeah, shout out to Lauren Andrews. She didn't even say that. She just said, it sounds like you're still holding on to something. She said, what are you not giving yourself permission to do? Or what are you not giving yourself permission to be? I wrote it down. And I left that conversation going, how would she know that about me? Not even knowing that, and it was later, actually not even later, maybe 10 minutes later, I was like, oh, I'm not giving myself permission to fail. It's not that I'm not giving myself permission to be. I was giving myself permission to be human, but I wasn't giving myself permission to say sometimes you fail, even with your best intentions, best laid plans. Right. Sometimes it's going to go bad. Sometimes you're going to lose, and that's okay. That's a part of life. Yeah. And like that understanding is much more helpful than what I was doing, which being a more of a frustrated, depressive state, or what Zuck is doing is being in a performative state.
Right. Well, that's what we learned in martial arts. We're talking about failing. What is failure in martial arts? Well, failure in martial arts is not, like, let's say you're training a routine, not completing your routine. Gymnastics the same way.
Yep.
Jiu-jitsu, it's literally being tapped out. It's losing, like you got choked out or whatever. But we're not defined by our losses, but we are shaped by our losses. Right. That is the lesson. And when I look at people like Zuckerberg and Musk and Trump, and Trump's not a tech bro, but
he loves the tech bros. They were all there.
Talk about the Paul brothers.
All there at the inauguration.
Where are they getting those losses from? Where are they going to get those losses? Like, they're paying people to train with them. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're paying a personal trainer to come in and teach you jiu-jitsu, is he really going to teach you like he would teach a class full of 20, 30 people?
And you got to wonder, are you really being hit in the face?
It's Zuckerberg, man.
Are you really feeling that punch? You told me this awesome story about your coach, something about, are you still breathing? Can you talk about that?
Oh, of course. Yeah, for sure. Mark Devine, Coach Devine, he was, still is a mentor of mine. And he would often say, like, you still breathing? Like, cause we mentioned, like, well, I just got my ass kicked in this deal or whatever. And he's like, were you still breathing? I said, yeah. I said, well, you still got fight. You're not out. And like, when you think about somebody like that, like a retired Navy SEAL or someone who's been deployed to Iraq, like, you still got fight in you, man. That means something different than a billionaire tech bro on TikTok saying, like, doing a good job, bro.
It's so interesting that you say that, because what I've been so interested in over the past 2 years, specifically, really since the pandemic, but certainly over the past 2 years, is the decline of David Goggins in this time.
That's a whole podcast.
Because
we could get you back on for that one.
Because Goggins is the anti tech bro.
Yeah.
right? That's
Oh, yeah.
the
I don't-
first thing you'll hear him say is
I don't even
all
know
that
if he knows
shit
how
is
to send an email.
performative. All
Yeah.
that shit is, and I've noticed like since he's like come out, he started coming out against those guys like probably about 2 or 3 years ago, and since that time, like his presence on a lot of these guys' podcasts has gone like I don't even see him out there anymore. And I'm like, oh, so the guy that's really about it, that guy that's really the warrior that's calling you out on your shit, y'all don't want him on the podcast no more. Now, instead, we want to have Andrew Tate or
it's weird, right?
all of these other like performative.
Will they play along?
Yeah, I just think that's really interesting. Like,
I think so.
Because all of them are like watered down Goggins, right? And particularly the real estate bros, the real estate tech bros.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
They're all like watered down Goggins, but it's like Goggins is really about it. But he's also really about the human part, the human masculinity.
He'll tell you his story.
Yep. And I've just noticed like it went like by the time I think pandemic 2021, 22, Goggins all-time high. 2025, I don't see Goggins on no podcast. I don't think that's by accident.
Well, that's because doing the real work takes time.
Yeah,
it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of effort. If you're a real martial artist, that's what gets you the respect. It's time on the mat.
It's just like me in high school. Like when seeing my cousin Derek come down the hallway, I'm like,
he's a real one.
Oh shit.
Yep.
So we can't have Goggins come around anymore.
Yeah. See, that's what I love about it so much is that you can tell, you can see it. You've done CrossFit. It's sort of, CrossFit can go wherever it wants to go, but like you can tell someone who's been doing that for 5 or 6 years versus a newbie who always wants to come in and talk shit and I'm gonna do this.
Always wants to finish first.
I'm gonna finish this and cut reps and do whatever. But you can tell the real ones versus the people who haven't been doing it. The way they move, the way they carry themselves.
And that's what we need to encourage people to do. You know, if anything else, as we close out today, like look for the real.
Yeah, man.
Right? If it's sounding like an act, if it's a sudden change, if it's like, why are we watching this person work out? Why is their butt facing the camera and I'm seeing the crack of their ass as they do the squat? Like, what is really going on here?
That's right.
You as opposed to someone that's really doing the real work. Yo, this is a complete sidebar, but that made me think about one of my favorite work of fitness influencers. This is a black guy. I think his name is Devin. This guy, he always like he'll start out by saying something like, you know, you don't have to do all this crazy shit and all this shit. He was like, the reason why you got a big back issue or you got a big stomach is because you're not watching what you eat. Like he's so good at just cutting right through the bullshit and then getting down to like, you know, all of these people are trying to like influence you to believe something that's not real. I think people should spend more time with people that are where you can tell their message is genuine and honest, as opposed to someone that's using a camera or using a outfit to influence you to believe something that's not real.
100%. Let's end on that. Spoken like a true media literacy
word up
teacher. I appreciate it.
Indeed, for sure though. Thank you, Gene.
Yes, sir.